1.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the Hillsborough Tampa Library meeting. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Phyllis Albert. Phyllis is not present. Okay. Carmen Alvarez. Marcus. Bob, I think I see Bob. There you are.
I'm sorry, this is HTV. We're getting a lot of microphone noise. If everyone that's not speaking can mute their microphone.
Okay. Bob Argus. Yes, there he is. Ben Holm. No Ben. Jim Johnson. There you are. Maggie Martirosian, I am here. Candy Martin. Here. Thank you. Shelley McClellan.
I'm here by phone.
Thank you, Shelley. Michael Newitt.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Michael. Felicia Pecora. Thank you, Felicia. And Abigail St. Clair. Here. Thanks. That's it.
I think we have a quorum. Do we have any public comments?
We've had no public comment.
Okay. So the budget review. Has everybody had a chance to look at your packet and review the budgets and the activity reports and such? You know what we haven't done, and I didn't see, I'm sorry, except the minutes from last, I guess we don't have a minutes from last because it's all online. This is all new. Anybody have any questions or comments about the budget?
Yes, I have a question, or maybe several. It looks like we've essentially spent so far this year close to 92% of the way through. It looks like we've spent close to $20 million in personal services, salaries and benefits, etc. As I recall from our last meeting, Andrew said that approximately a third of our to COVID-related process. So my question is, when do we get the $4 to $5 million back for the payroll?
Yeah.
Answer that.
Somebody's typing. It's all I can hear is keyboard.
I was going to say, I'm hearing typing. I was going to ask the same thing. If everyone who's not.
Ourselves, we're going to have to mute. Yep. And Michael, okay, very good.
Okay. And we're not sure, Bob. It's not quite as high as 4 to 5 million. Actually, I think our latest estimate was just over $1 million. We started that conversation with our budget director of when the taxing district is going to be compensated, and it's going to have to do with the rules of the CARES Act funding, because that's that would be how that money comes back. And so it's gonna be a while before we hear an answer to that question, because the county did get a significant amount of CARES Act funding, but we're not quite sure how that process works for the taxing district to be reimbursed, if that's possible from that funding. So we're working on it. We'll keep you informed as we hear any more information.
Could we start getting a monthly list or percentage or amount of payroll that potentially could be refunded, or what our personal expenses have been for COVID?
What we can do, because our participation is kind of winding down, and I'll talk about that a bit later. But we can work on calculating what we think is a good estimate on the cost for payroll. Because as it's winding down, we can put like a point on it and say, okay, since the 16th of March, this is how many staff hours have been provided. to the county's COVID mitigation effort, and this is the value of that time. I think I kind of expect it to be a fairly shocking number when we're all said and done, because there was a point where we had over 100 employees for a significant amount of time performing COVID-related mitigation tasks. So, yeah,
Well, thank you.
it's determined. Yeah, we're working on it. Trust me. We've already asked. Other questions? Felicia, you're muted.
Amazing things. I'm sorry you guys missed it. Is there any more questions or comments about the budget review? If there are none, then the updates are next from Andrew, I believe, our 2021 budget. Are you there, Andrew?
I knew that was going to happen. I'd start talking muted. I was afraid I would deliver some really eloquent speech and then find out that I was muted. That's going to be Sean. He's going to walk you through our fiscal year 21 budget and show you what awesome stuff has been funded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll go ahead and share my screen here. All right. This is the upcoming decision units for the current fiscal year that we are, I'm sorry, not current, it starts October 1, so close enough to current. These decision units were approved in the budget, and we will be starting on this process of enacting them October 1. So kicking right off, restroom renovations. We held a meeting with the regional managers and administration, and we went over what some of the most pressing concerns for building style, building maintenance issues that they had, and restrooms came up time and time again. So we're putting $1 million towards it. We're going to renovate older bathrooms. So we put the list together of the oldest bathrooms we have, and we're going to work up from there. Where applicable, we're going to create single-person stalls, basically. Fun side note, according to Florida state statute, you still have to have a men's and women's restroom. So these will be single stall units with men's and women's on them. Clean, and where applicable or where not applicable, we plan to clean and touch up bathrooms. And basically that means resurfacing, refinishing, new fixtures, new paint in some locations, pretty much a full redo of all of the bathrooms top to bottom. This should take 1 to 2 years as we work through it. Next, and I know Jackie is extremely excited about this one, and I am as well. We have put money into the budget to begin the design phase of a new Thonotosassa Library. And by the way, trying to spell that took me 3 times to look up how exactly to make sure Thonotosassa is spelled. This is the beginning of the process. It is $1.5 million, and that is to answer some very important questions. 1, where is the building going to be located? 2, the size of the footprint. 3, what we want to see in that building and the new services we plan to offer to that community. If anybody has been out there, it is a growing area, and those citizens deserve the same access to the library services and materials that we provide across this county, and this building will be a wonderful step forward. To those who have seen Thonotosassa, it has a wonderful small little park next to it with a gazebo. We need to work on how we want to incorporate those kinds of beautiful outdoor amenities with a new building. So this is obviously a multi-year project, but we will begin this year by planning and setting the parameters for what we want this new beautiful building to look like in that area. 3rd is a West Tampa library renovation. That's $500,000. We're going to be renovating the interior of the building. Now, it's important to specify that the interior we are speaking of is the new section of the building, as the older section, the original West Tampa, is a protected structure and will be maintained. Our plans there, our most important plan is to add an enclosed staff workroom. Right now, unfortunately, the staff basically do not have a workroom separated from the public areas. We also intend to remodel the shelving in the interior. If you've been into the West Tampa Library, they have these beautiful stained glass windows in there, but very high shelving. We want to try and rework the shelving to bring it down to incorporate some new light and to have the structures flow a little bit more and to open up some space. We also want to test out new technologies for computer usage in this building. So what we mean by that is having more laptop checkout spaces, having Wi-Fi that lets you roam within the building and still access all of the Word and Office documents and the printing capability that you have using one of our wired public terminals. We think we can incorporate all of this, and we are excited to begin working on this and really making the interior of West Tampa into a very beautiful, very flowing space. Our fourth is to upgrade the library facility security. And as I believe everybody here is aware of, security is very important in all of our libraries and all of our facilities across the county. To that end, we have dedicated $550,000 to begin the process of upgrading the facility's baseline security. What that means to start with is we plan to replace older fire alarms within the buildings. We have a lot of fire alarms from a lot of different county buildings that we've constructed over the last 20 to 30 years, and they all need to be standardized and upgraded. And that, if you don't think that's a big deal, you should see how much it takes to go through to get a contractor to work on them if they break down. It is an amazing feat to see the amount of coordination it takes to get the right security company contractor out to fix the right alarm. So this will standardize and make this all one system very easy. We also plan to look at access control on our staff entrances. This will basically put it so that the staff only need to use their badge to gain access to the staff entry areas and give us local control over who comes and goes into certain secured parts of the building. This will be a large step forward, and we're going to work very closely with the facilities department and our risk management department to make sure we have the access and the control over the important areas of our libraries. Our estimation is it should take about 1 year. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to replace library materials with lost fees. So we've been collecting lost fees for many years since we went fine-free, but we still charge people when they lose the item and they pay for it. We've been collecting those fees, and we need board action and a decision unit to take the money we've collected and spend it on buying and replacing new materials. So that's exactly what this is. We went to the board and basically said, this $38,000 we've collected, we would like to use this specifically for the purpose of acquiring new materials. They absolutely agreed, and so simple as that, we will be using that towards lost materials. Increase of our digital collection funding. Now this has been very important lately in the time of COVID, and so its timing could not have been better. We have placed a decision unit and put $500,000 more towards the digital collections we have. That is everything from Overdrive to Hoopla to RB Digital, access through, basically pretty much anything and everything digital we have devoted more resources to. And if anybody has been to the digital library within the last 6 months while we've been doing curbside and those things, I think everybody's aware that we are really light years ahead of some of the other libraries, both within the state and the country, in the size and robustness of our digital collection. And I believe Andrew told a story last time about talking to some of his colleagues and the fact that other libraries such as Seattle and such had one copy of a certain book when it came out, when it was a very hot topic, and we looked and we had 200 copies and they had 200 holds. We plan to continue that level of support for our digital collections as more and more people access these things, and also to devote that funding towards new and upcoming things such as Canopy or Hoopla, whatever's coming down the pipe in the digital library world. We want to be on top of it. Safety and security enhancements. So this one is an interesting one, and bear with me while I explain. We have devoted $500,000 towards 7 full-time employees. Now, why is that a safety and security enhancement? Because these employees will be dedicated towards improving our buildings and improving the programming we offer, which keeps our community safe and secure. So the 5 public service guide twos we plan to dedicate towards our extremely successful teen zone programs and use them to basically supplement and enhance the programming we offer, which provides a security benefit to the areas around it by giving teens a safe place to go and interact with each other. We plan to keep 1 support service guide 2. That person's job will be to updating the website, not just for the public, but for the staff and what we call Gearbox, which is our internal website. This will be to add new safety bulletins. This will be to keep the website updated with new information to basically continue and enhance our continuing education efforts for our staff and to keep them as top-notch as possible. We'll also be adding 1 multi-trades worker for branch upkeep and simple repairs. Now, facilities does the majority of our work for branches, and they do an excellent job, but there's a lot of minor stuff that can be done by a person that will help the branches stay more functional, stay on top of things, but that can be done quicker than facilities can get to it because it's a big county and facilities has a lot of things to get to. So this multi-trades worker's purpose will be to handle minor repairs, moving of furniture and items, transporting things, large things in the building, and also just keeping the buildings in regular good maintenance. And what that does for safety and security is it enhances everybody's safety when the building is functioning most properly. And that is the end of my PowerPoint. So if anyone has any questions, please ask.
I have a question. We have came up with a priority list for changes to facilities, I guess, ranking of libraries for additions. Where was Thonotosassa on that list?
Near the top. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say, other than Apollo Beach and Waimama, which were in discussions with parks about co-location, that was the next location. So it's at the very top of the list, and it will be a replacement. So we're going to be building on the same property. We don't have to negotiate property. So hopefully, the current property, once, as Sean says, we get some questions answered, we should know that we definitely will be able to build on that property. But Jim, we are going to build Brandon first, I guarantee it.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Next is the Riverview Library and John Germany Library construction update. Andrew?
Sean, was that someone from your group?
I can handle that one as well. And also it might be a good part to throw a certain someone under the bus who's looking at it now. David, if you have a minute to describe what Riverview looks like now, I would very much appreciate it, sir.
David, hit that mic.
There he goes.
There we go. Okay, the new Riverview Library is pretty awesome. I think most of the furniture is installed already, and the most amazing thing about it is the floor, the terrazzo floor in the lobby, which is done by a local artist, and the theme of it is River of Fire, which is what I guess the Alafia River, the name of the Alafia River means. It's pretty stunning. We don't have an artistic terrazzo floor in any of our libraries, and so this is the first one of those. I hope it's not the last. It'll be my last, but anyway, it's just stunning. And last week, a public art was installed that is stained glass windows in several of the spaces, and it was not meant that these two installations would be coordinated, but they work together just beautifully. The stained glass is, the design is inspired by the history of Riverview and the Riverview area, and I guess Peru, is that Peru? Is that how they say it? Okay, so so it has several scenes depicting life back in the good old days when the Native Americans, life on the river. Then it progresses to the pioneer settlers, and then has several scenes depicting wildlife and agriculture. And it's just stunning. So I can't wait for you all to see it. But there are some, we're still waiting on the shelving to be manufactured and installed, and that's unfortunately going to take a long time. I think it'll be done sometime in December. I mean, that's, it's just, that was unexpected, but I think, it's part of the reason is the COVID shutdowns and all that. So, but the building itself is just stunning. I was over there this morning, and it surpassed my expectations. So, and I'm sorry it's taken so long for it to open, but it was just out of our hands. So,
I'll say after years that we're going to be, we may be opening the branch up to curbside prior to its actual opening, like all of our other locations. We will be using the old library through the election day, but it may be that a significant time frame will be over doing curbside in the new building while the supervisor of elections is just using the old one. It all depends on timing. We are working with communications now to do some kind of a virtual ribbon cutting and building tour, because it's a county commissioner event, and it doesn't. I guess, as you know, most people just aren't ready to pull a crowd together. So as soon as we're able to, we're definitely, even if we do a virtual ribbon cutting and dedication, we're gonna, as soon as we're practically able, we're gonna actually do something celebratory at the building. Right now, real estate is working on the lease with the Greater Riverview Chamber of Commerce. So we're still on track for them to move into their new quarters. Very excited, generally. It is, without doubt, the most amazing and beautiful building we've ever built. And I have to give David and his team kudos. This is David's last meeting, and he has given us a lot of new buildings, but I think this is certainly an amazing one to go out on. So thank you. Thank you.
Speaking to the chamber, I have a question for Mr. Johnson. You wouldn't happen to be the president emeritus of the Riverview Chamber, would you?
My time at the Riverview Chamber started in 1996. I spent 4 years, 4 terms as president, 2 terms as honorary mayor, and I've been on the board of directors. In 2008, voted board emeritus for the board of directors of the chamber. So that's kind of sort of, I've been around for a while.
Tanya was trying to angle to get you a tour, and I said, I believe Mr. Johnson is also on the library board if it's the same person. I had a hunch.
It is, yes. Both boards, just, I can't get enough of it.
as for the John F. Germany building, the demolition is substantially complete of the annex in that the entire building has been removed and the land is being flattened at this point in time. We are talking with real estate about the end result of that project and how we create a new area in the back of the building towards the river. So that would be the area facing the bridge and the entry points towards the Strata Center in those zones. There are some conversations going on as to how we would like that zone to look. There's a very good feeling about showing off the architecture of the auditorium, which I have been educated on is a very modern building that was based on a lot of other buildings, or that a lot of other buildings were based on that kind of small concept. If I'm correct, including the Sydney Opera House. Andrew is shaking head, yes. So we are talking about restoring some of the grandeur to that, perhaps some color. There are a lot of options on the table, but at this point, the major and most important part is that the annex building has been removed and that the landscaping and access to John F. Germany are being restored to make sure that they are within code and acceptable to both ourselves and the city of Tampa. So are there any questions about that? Okay.
Question about the construction specifically, but I do
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
question about when are we gonna open back up for people to come inside? Is that in view at all?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about our phase 2 approach in my director's report, which is next.
Perfect. So I'm going to mute my mic and turn off the camera and let Andrew go then.
Anybody have any questions though about John Germany?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to do any questions before we start, go ahead. Yeah.
No questions. It's all yours, Andrew.
Okay. We'll start with all the people stuff. I want to point out and congratulate. We have 3 reappointed members to the board. Candy, Michael, and Carmen. We're all reappointed to their seats. We do have another District 2 board vacancy, and there was apparently some confusion with the advertisement, so it will go out again. And so we'll have another District 2 appointment coming soon. So stay tuned. Another personnel adjustment. Oh, yes, Abigail.
Which is District 2 again? What area?
It's the northern part of Hillsborough County. I'm pointing like this, like you can tell. It's the northern part of Hillsborough County, all the way across the northern sector.
And do we have candidates already that the supervisors are considering, or are we looking for people?
They'll do a recruitment. There were a handful of candidates for the single position that Michael's was appointed to. So there were other candidates for that position. More than likely, they will reapply. And if there are other folks that during the recruitment, we may get new names as well. But it's advertised by the county.
Thanks.
Okay. Yep. Another personnel change, but it's kind of an adjacent personnel change. What is in the Bruton Memorial Library in Plant City. We do have a new director there. As you might remember, I passed along that the previous director had passed away. They have done a recruitment, and we have a young man by the name of Paul Shaver. He has been a library director in a municipal library in New Jersey, where he was born and raised. He is, I think, wonderfully for the community, fluent in Spanish. Something they've needed for a long time, and had a few initial meetings with him. And I think that Plant City is in good hands, and the cooperative is going to have a good future because he seems like a really solid guy. The only other personal note, I did want to mention one of our former library directors, Cecil Beach, has passed away on September 2nd. He was the library director from 1965 to 72. He was a pioneer in desegregating libraries in the Southeast, first in Gadsden County. When he got to Tampa, our library was already in 65 in the process of desegregating but he ended all of the other practices around segregation, like separate bathrooms, separate water fountains, things like that. He was also the one that designed and got built our John F. Germany Library. So working with the community. So he left quite a mark. He left us to become the state librarian of Florida. So only up. So great legacy. He does have a meeting room named after him at the John Germany Library. Pass that on. A little update on the staff, and I know something that has been brought up, that Bob brought up already, was our staff serving in emergency response roles related to COVID. At the peak, I think we had about 120 activated at one time. I think when we look at all the names of people activated, almost, I think 2/3, if not more, of our staff at one point served in some capacity in the emergency response. And we did pull down quite a share of the response, working closely with departments like Parks and Head Start. Our staff have done everything from procurement at the Emergency Operations Center. They've done testing sites. We were the only county staff at the Raymond James testing site for a while, where at one point we had 50 employees working. All of that is slowly coming to an end. At the moment, we only have 25 employees active in any kind of an emergency role, which allows us to very, very adequately staff curbside at all the libraries where we ended curbside. So you should see that beginning on Monday. So all the libraries that we closed down, with the exception of Saunders, Egypt Lake, and Sulphur Springs, those will stay closed. The first two of them, because of their proximity to schools, they're actually in the school. And Saunders, because that facility is being used by the county very heavily for meetings that are not allowed to be virtualized, like we are at this meeting. And it's pretty much a county meeting space at the moment. And we are, it's not heavy on the curbside, so it's quite a good choice for them to use. It's got a great room, as you all know. But with that 25 folks, we're at a number that we are ready as soon as the county feels we're ready, and our community indicators show that we're ready to move to our phase 2. And phase 2 of our reopening will include a limited entry by customers into the facility, which would be limited time frame in the building, and it provide access to our browsing collections and our computers. I know we extended wireless into the parking lot, and that's had a tremendous effect. We're having over 100,000 wireless sessions a month in our parking lots. So that's a tremendous success. But we still at some point need to start welcoming people back into the building. And that's what phase 2 is going to be. And we'll do a very step 1, step 2 approach, this group of libraries. Then when that's successful, we'll bring on the next group of libraries. It will be, no furniture other than the chairs at the computer tables, because we just don't need people or don't want people to stay. Masks will be required. Temperature screenings will be at each door. So it's following all the county protocols. Now, we did hit kind of what I thought was unexpected, but it makes sense, is because of the governor's order on closures and reopenings, he does specifically address libraries in his opening and makes the comment, makes the statement that they require local government approval to open. And we've been advised through the county attorney's office that the best way to handle that would be by having a BOCC agenda item for the BOCC to authorize our reopening. So at this point, we're preparing an agenda item to get the BOCC's authorization for the second meeting in October, because we would like to reopen the week after the election starts, or after the general election is over. And that's primarily, there's 2 reasons for that. Is we know that the 17 or so sites where early voting and polling will be taking place are just going to be overwhelmed with traffic and people. that happened during the previous general election, and we are expecting it again. But it's made particularly tricky by the fact that the supervisor of elections and Hillsborough County, under the Board of County Commission, have two very different masking policies. So in one portion of the building, which leads into the next portion of the building, we would have this gray zone where one masking rules were in effect. And then when they get into the county side, a different set of masking rules, which are a little more strict, would be in effect. We really feel that it would be in the best interest of the community and the safety of the employees to just wait until probably the Thursday, November 5th, after the election, to start phase 2 and step 1 of phase 2. We're really excited that we're finally going to get to welcome people back in the building. We just want to make sure we do it as safe as possible.
Question for you on that. The Board of County Commissioners agenda item, is that to 100% open the libraries, or is it only a phase?
Right now, the governor's only allowing 50%. We're going to start at a 25% capacity. But when you look at the capacities, the stated capacities of our facilities, they're very generous. 50% capacity is what most libraries were operating at full capacity with all the customers prior to COVID. So we're really just trying to make sure that the staff are able to do the cleaning and the service that's required for that level of customers. But yeah, right now the governor has only authorized a 50% capacity opening and no high touch areas in public libraries. So we're going to open without in-person educational programming, without hives, maker spaces, and there'll be some high browsing collections that won't be available, like magazines and board books. And the meeting rooms will still be off the table. Meeting rooms and, unfortunately, the Friends bookstores will still be closed for a while longer. Waiting for further instructions from the governor's office. So it doesn't authorize us. It authorizes us to reopen following the governor's guidance. Yeah, good question. Good question, Bob. Any other questions about that? I know that's a giant topic. So I just want to make sure that that everyone, if you have any questions about how we're reopening or what we're going to be doing, we were targeting October 5th, but then with the requirement for the recommendation for the agenda item and the issues revolving around voting, we think that November 5th is probably the best date to start that process.
You know, I think the library's closing did what for, like, you know, how schools being closed did for teachers, like elevated the how much they were appreciated. I have a buddy of mine who's got a little son and didn't know the libraries were closed because she doesn't read, who now is so appreciative of libraries and can't wait for it to be open.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know we before we initiated curbside, we were getting regular emails saying, hey, when are we going to be able to come and get our books? Or a lot of them were just, when can I bring my books back? Very strange, you know, as an aside, very strange. Once we took fines away, people were more responsible bringing their books back than when we had fines. And now that there's no penalty if you just hang on to it for a little longer. They want to get rid of them. They just want to get them back into the library for other people. So that's nice. But no, we're starting to get questions now because you have people who are, you know, a lot of people are making use of the curbside, but that does make it that you do have to have a little bit more tech savvy because you need to be looking up materials or calling us to look up materials. And when you remember that, you know, 75% of the materials that people check out began their life just by someone walking up to a shelf and saying, I want this, not using the computer. Well, they might have used the computer, but not placing a reserve and filling a hole. So that has caused quite a hit to our physical circulation, which we're going to be happy to get back. Digital circulation during this time period has gone through the roof. Our online programming is, we have an astounding program. We've got some folks working hard on that. Our staff are super creative and they've come up with a lot of really great things to keep our citizens motivated and attending programs and learning. So we're just very happy to have the possibility of getting back to serving customers in person. We just need to do it safely. And I pointed out to my supervisor, Assistant County Administrator Tom Fass, that over the last 10, 15 years, we've made great effort to making a lot of our services self-service so that we could offer more service to more people. And right now, and under the first few phases of reopening, everything that we're doing requires high touch on the part of our staff, so that our capacity to deliver is a little bit diminished under the current situation. So we're looking forward to getting back to normal. I know our staff are really looking forward to serving customers in a good old-fashioned way again.
Andrew, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, right now we're in kind of a flux going into fall as far as COVID-19 and the numbers that different groups are putting out there and experiencing. And I know that the emergency doctors here, are really taking a hard look at things right now. Are our opening opportunities going to be, are they somewhat flexible if we see a big upsurge?
Absolutely. It's in the current trend, we feel like we should be lower than that 5% positivity rate that was our target prior to November 5th. Should that change, we have no problem slowing down the bus and closing the door again. No problem at all. And it may be required. We'll find out as the winter goes on.
I'm sure you'll get a lot of input. I just know that right now out there, it's kind of, we're in an interesting time right in the middle. And Jason Wilson at Tampa General is the emergency person who puts out a lot of that information.
Right.
And, they're really looking real hard at what's going on there. I know.
Yeah. Interesting about Dr. Wilson. He is a former library employee.
Really? I was on the healthcare board with him, and he's a personal friend. But, I know that he's so involved at different levels, and has been. He's really interesting and very, opposed to a lot, he's really interested, and believable.
Yes. Yeah, former library employee. That'd be 20 years ago, if not longer.
You got a chance to train everybody.
Yeah. No, I think he's done a lot on his own. Yeah. Let's see.
Andrew, I have a question on the borrow by mail.
Yes.
Are you finding that people are getting their books in a reasonable amount of time, or has there been any slowdown on the post office part?
I'll be honest. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna see if Sean and his group have any input on that. I have not heard of any slowdown. The last I saw, our numbers were within a week. People are getting the material, sometimes quicker.
Okay.
Anything, Sean, from your group?
No, Andrew is exactly right. We are hanging in a 5 to 7 day turnaround for those, and that's because we've arranged and worked with the post office. Standard library mail routes usually have them, and it's very strange. They ship to Jacksonville as their main warehouse and then come back. We talked with the post office and they are aware of our current setting, so they do not do that. They take it to the main distribution area of the Tampa airport, which we deliver to. They sort from there and go. So the post office turnaround is actually about equal to the processing of the whole turnaround, where it's pulled, transported to John F. Germany, packaged, and goes from there. So we're staying within the 5 to 7 days right now.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. It's actually been really successful. It's not been overwhelming. I know that it's one of those programs that we were, even before COVID, when we were designing the borrow by mail, I think everyone was worried that no one would want to come to the library and everyone would want everything mailed to their house. We're mailing, I think, and I'll wait for a nod from Sean there, 6,000 or so a month, or is that a week?
Month.
Okay, so it's got a lot of room to grow, but I think as people find out about it, and I think a lot of people will find out about it as they start coming back into libraries. Let's see, CARES Act funding. We have been applying for CARES Act funding to expand some remote library services. And we have, we're doing 50-50 on that one. We applied for some state level CARES Act funding through the state library, and kudos to our grant writing folks. We received nearly $37,000 grant, which will be used to expand the hotspot lending program, internet wireless hotspot lending. We also had applied through the IMLS for federal level, and we're notified actually today that we were not going to be receiving that money. So we're going to keep plugging away at it. But just to let you know, the staff is still working on finding every available dollar possible to help support library services through this time. And I guess now for the topic that Jim has been waiting for, we're going to talk about Brandon. Because it's with COVID, and we're talking about now Thonotosassa, and we're talking about Riverview being finished, and we've been, it seems like, talking about Brandon for almost 2 years. And it felt almost like we were ready to go when we bought a piece of property, which we all thought was a great piece of property, and we're ready to go. But there's been a lot of other consideration in the process. And recent meetings, we've brought this to a fine point, laid out a whole lot of options and excluded a lot of options that just weren't really realistic. And the current path that we are pursuing and that the county supports our pursuing, we are trying to purchase additional property adjacent to the property we purchased on the corner of Parsons and Lumsden, because there is still a lot of concern about the traffic on that corner and what a library would do to that traffic, and concerns about getting in and out of libraries. So we're looking at adjacent property, and we'll be pursuing that and swapping the purchased property for adjacent property and building somewhere in the near vicinity, hopefully the property just to the west, but that's still under negotiation. We looked at everything, even possibly tearing down the existing Brandon and buying some property there with it and building something newer. It's just a really constrained piece of property where we are now, and we just don't have enough information about the future of Center Place. So we're not quite sure where that's going to go. So we're going to continue with our initial plan that was presented the last time we presented a plan about Brandon to you. Was looking at the adjacent property, working to purchase that, and then working with the county to do some kind of swap so that we can start building, because we need to start some design. And I know one of our commissioners for that district is very excited to see this project move forward. So we're going to continue plugging away, but that is, we are on the current space, and we're going to look at the property just adjacent to us. And I know there's negotiations going on now. Sorry, I don't have a time frame, but as you know, once we secure property, there's usually a year of design and a year of construction. So we're still at least minimum 2 years away from the grand opening of Brandon. Any questions? Because I only had one more item, which is going to require, I believe, some of discussion on your part. As you guys know, the reason we're able to have meetings in this fashion is the governor's order that allows virtual meetings for public purpose. So that's the reason the Board of County Commissioners and things like, and the emergency meetings are being held using the same platform that you're using. That order expires on September 30th. So October may mean that we would need to meet again in person, or potentially suspend or not have meetings or do them less frequently. And I was curious to hear what the board's pleasure might be if there was a strong feeling one way or another based on that information. I don't have any information as to whether the governor will last minute extend that. But I think that everyone is kind of waiting to hear as the clock ticks down on that one. We have another week left if we hear that. So should the governor extend this this measure to allow the virtual meetings, we're going to continue, our plan is to continue to have the meetings in this fashion. If he doesn't, we would then shift to whatever your pleasure is. If you want to meet, we would, of course, socially distance. We would make it a facility that's where we could socially distance people in the room and make public comment available that way. Or we could suspend, or we could just have them less frequently. I think that's kind of looking for some direction from you as to how you'd like to meet. Is there any preferences?
I'm ready for the world to get back to business in a responsible way. So I'm all in for in person, and we can do the social distancing. We've got spaces that are plenty large enough for us to be 6 feet apart, and everybody's kind of got good habits, washing their hands and wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like we're willy-nilly, we don't know how this thing works, and all of a sudden, 12 people are infected. So I think it's time to take our responsible and informed selves back to work.
I would say just one thing, and that is that a lot of people like Bill Gates and others who have worked a lot on this look at maybe 2022 being more of a year of normal, and also that inside right now, given air circulation and forced air systems that are in place, I think it's pretty difficult for people like myself that are older and immunocompromised to look at indoor settings as being really safe.
I agree with Mike.
Sorry. We had asked this question before, I think, last year. Is there a way that we can allow people to attend by this technology and still have in-person meetings? Because before there was something that prevented it.
Yeah, we'll have to consult on that, but the answer has usually been people may attend by listening to the meeting, but they can't participate without being there. That's been my recollection. And I see Bob shaking his head. Now you've been through this discussion, I think, more than once. That's been my recollection. So we can work with the county attorney's office to see what that recommendation would be. But I just wanted to bring up the discussion to see if there was an overwhelming feeling one way or another. Absolutely not. Or if we did it social distance in a facility, how would that be okay? Would you like to just meet in person fewer times if this rule isn't extended?
As a suggestion, we might consider the patio down on South Shore to meet on.
I have a problem with in-person meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of figured that was going to be the case for a significant portion of the board, so I wanted to put that out there. It may be that if we are not able to do some form of meeting like this, that we do some kind of just regular updates to you in lieu of that, because we're really waiting to see what the governor will do. This may be a moot point because the governor may, in fact, extend the virtual meeting authorization, but we'll see. Because I know the Board of County Commissioners is even considering where they're going to meet if this order isn't extended. And it's possible that they'll be meeting at Saunders because that's a significantly large room. And I know they do a very thorough, I think someone referred to it as the bleach cannon cleaning after each session that's in there. There's quite a few meetings going on there.
I think that my concern is how many, we really haven't had any members of the public attending by computer, right?
I don't believe we've had any public comment in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and so that's my concern about the in-person versus the online is the access to the districts we represent. That's always, like, for me, it's always the competing value. That's why I don't understand why on the rare occasion or if this, if there's a medical situation or something, why board members can't, because we're an advisory board, you know, not a regulatory board, why we couldn't now in the new normal change the rules so that some people can meet by person, some people can meet this way and still interact, still be a part of the voting and all that kind of stuff, still accessible to the public. But even if I was the only one in the room, it would still be a room that the public could come to and face their board and you know, if they have any issues or whatever. That's the competing value that I have between personal health and then the public governance.
Okay. Yeah, Abigail?
Yeah, I would just like to second what Felicia is saying. I'm very comfortable in person. I understand that lots of people aren't, and I completely understand why. I'm comfortable in person, and I would love to explore an option where we could do a hybrid, where we could see if that's possible at all, because I think that sounds like the best solution. Those that aren't comfortable could meet remotely, and those who are and aren't at risk could be there in person for the community.
Okay. Yeah, and we don't. If a hybrid is if the outcome of a hybrid type meeting is that we just live with no quorum and it's discussion and informational only and nothing is voted on, that may be the outcome, and that may be the okay for a while until we find some other accommodation. So we'll work closely with Charlotte and the county attorney's office to find out exactly, should the governor's order not be extended, what our next step is. I just wanted to just do a quick conversation. Yeah, Bob.
Yes, and if we were to go that way with a hybrid meeting or whatever, we probably need to change our bylaws, which it's coming up for review in December, correct?
Araceli? She's nodding yes. So yes, that maybe have to be at least some temporary adjustment to bylaws. Other questions about this topic, or questions for me about any topic?
Is David still with us?
I see his name. David, are you still with us?
I just want to say that since we've had these electronic meetings with a microphone, it's the loudest David has ever been at a meeting. I'm going to miss his voice.
Thank you.
Well, along those lines, David, it's been a pleasure for the last decade or so working with you on this. Greatly appreciate what you've done for our system.
It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed every minute of my job, so I'll miss the people. So thank you.
And I just wanted to say, Andrew, that, you know, I think this format, you're doing a great job as far as making it meaningful and convenient. And I feel pretty comfortable in this format right now, especially until we get a little better look at what the future looks like.
Right. I would agree. You know, just trying to be prepared for the potential, what the legal questions are going to be going forward. This seems to work okay. We can push stuff on the screen. We can show a pretty good conversation. We actually got a complete house tour from Felicia earlier, so it's always nice to see what's going on at home.
I have a hard time sitting still in those beautiful meeting rooms to begin with. You know, in my own house, it's impossible.
Well, that would end the director's report, and I guess back to you, Felicia.
So, does anybody have any final business? If not, I hope everybody has a wonderful month, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from you guys about all these questions we've posed. Be safe and stay healthy. This adjourns our meeting.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye.